Mr. President, thank you very much. I address this chamber for the first time. But the year isn't 2005, in fact the year is 2055. It's the 49th West Australian Parliament. That is just 50 years from now. Please imagine that this House has been addressed not by me, but by one of your great-grandchildren, probably by virtual telecommunication conferencing technology. By 2055, the population of the southwest region that I represent has trebled to over 800,000 people, while the population of Perth is in fact decreased significantly. World oil prices skyrocketed in the first decade, driving extraordinary investment into energy efficiency technologies. More efficient cars, more efficient appliances, and more efficient industrial processes. Imagine it. As transport costs rose, there was a trend towards a more relocalisation of local populations, industry and agriculture. An explosion of new technologies, innovation and adaptation, combined with forward-thinking government policy, drought-proofed the West Australian economy from global energy shortages. All major centres throughout the southwest region, Northam and Bunbury, Margaret River, Narrogin, Pemberton, Walpole, were linked by high-speed electrified rail networks. Those centres are well-serviced, compact urban areas with light rail public transport. Fuel cell electric cars have replaced the infernal combustion motors of the last century, and cities are clean, safe, quiet and people-friendly places to live and work. Imagine that. Agroforestry, integrated with water catchment management, has revitalised rural communities and secured the regional water supplies. 50 years from now. The southwest region has become largely self-reliant in agriculture. It exports biosafe, chemical-free agricultural products as a result of an extensive program in research and development into clean, safe, organic agricultural systems introduced by the Honourable Kim Chance early in the new century. The southwest region's renowned native forests, protected by conservationists. The biodiversity of the area has become the basis of an internationally recognised tourism industry, based of course on solar-powered ocean liner technology. The timber is sourced only and exclusively from farm forestry programs. Cities, towns and many households actually produce their own power, process their own sewerage and supply their own water on site. Power transmission lines, massive sewerage water and reticulation, the infrastructure, all of which was showing the signs of disintegration early in the century, was now almost a thing of the past as households and regions became more self-reliant. Western Australia regained world leadership in solar power generation after the silicon smelter near Bunbury, which produced nearly 1/5 of the world's high-grade silicon in the first part of the decade, that's now. After that was converted to a centre of excellence for renewable energy technology. Western Australia in 2055 is producing 1/5 of the photovoltaic electricity in the world, not 1/5 of the silicon. The West Australian Ministry for Energy and Resource Efficiency, kindly known by friends as the Department of Merry, was established following the 2005 Commonwealth Productivity Commission inquiry into energy efficiency and following oil price hikes just a few years later as world oil peaked. Western Australia was weaned off its economic dependence on mineral and energy exports towards a more self-reliant, balanced and robust economy. the energy-guzzling alumina industry in the southwest died a natural death as international carbon trading for greenhouse gas emissions bit hard into the West Australian economy, which had become one of the world's worst greenhouse gas polluters. Aluminium, as a matter of fact, and even steel, was replaced by superior carbon fibre technology by the year 2030. The composite materials were coming into their own. The state's zero waste policy, which targeted recycling and resource efficiency through investment, research and innovation, achieved that goal of zero waste by about 2035. Actually, what we really need to do is come back to the 37th Parliament. Mr. President, my fellow members, I look forward to working together to expand this vision over the coming 4 years as we deal with the power, water and energy crises which we are currently facing. My central contention is that the technology to build a clean, safe, smart economy is already with us right now. But it will take intention and not just hope, as we expect from the sustainability strategy for the state, which says that we hope that it'll all be okay. It will take intention to realise this vision of ecologically sustainable development. Now we need to take a journey back in time. In 1981, the Legislative Assembly, I don't believe it was this building, it was down in St George's Terrace, was lit by electric power for the first time. It was supplied by the WA Electric Light Company, a private company. The lights were dim and they flickered and faded, but it was a powerful symbol of modernity. Today, barely 100 years later, we now have internet connections in this room, intranet connections, wireless connections to the World Wide Web, and our words are reprocessed, processed and video imaged, beamed into the houses of our electorates. In that time, since we first lit this chamber with electricity to now, there's been a technological revolution in almost every area of life, and the rate of change is getting faster and faster. But electric power, Mr. President, in the state of Western Australia has remained a creature of the steam age. It has been frozen in time. We still choose to burn fossil fuels, preferably coal, to boil water, to produce steam, to turn shafts, to generate electricity that we transmit by long, thin wires, to appliances in our homes hundreds of kilometres away. You couldn't think of a worse system to have. Electricity has become an essential service that we could hardly imagine the modern world without. As a matter of fact, while we still generate our power from coal and gas and steam, there has actually been a revolution in power generation technology. But that hasn't taken off in Western Australia. Solar panels plugged directly onto the top of your roof, plugged directly into the household network, your household electrical network, and pump power back into the grid. Just 12 modern turbines located at Albany on the south coast produce equivalent to 75% of that city's electrical power. 12 turbines. I implore members and Mr. President to go and see that if you haven't. Some modern industrial economies in Europe are reaching 20% or aiming for more power generation from clean, safe electrical energy. Here in Western Australia, we suffer an infrastructure crisis, and to understand that crisis, we actually have to see how we built that system. How did we get to the point where we have hundreds of kilometres of fragile lines delivering power to our area? But let's go back to 1900. We have small, privately owned and local government owned and operated generators dotted throughout the regions. Right in the beginning, suburb by suburb, town by town, small generators were set up with very local networks. Claremont, East Perth, Fremantle, Northam, Bunbury, Collie, Albany, and so on. Isolated local networks, running street lights, a local ice works, and a few small factories. Power was rarely unreliable, but poor quality, but hell, it was modern. As time went by, we got bolder and bigger power plants, bigger turbines and longer wires, more consumers, more appliances, and even electric trams. After the war, the big state takeover happens in earnest. Suburb by suburb, town by town, local generation networks are taken over and connected into the state grid. The main power stations with long, thin wires. You can see what we have in the making here. In 1951, Harvey and Waroona and Mandurah. 1964, Narrogin, Kendanup, Kojonup, Brookton and Pingelly. Fridges, washing machines, as well as lights now. Reliability and quality of supply is just good enough. You know, when the power went down, the Simpson washing machine just went a little bit slower. That was okay. By the 70s, we have 2 fridges, TVs, automatic washing machines, dishwashers, big industrial expansion plans, and the power system is reasonably stable because all those poles and wires are reasonably new. Come to the 1990s to 2005. Enter personal computers, laptops, air conditioning, heaters, coolers, 3 TVs, 2 fridges, king-size freezer, computer games, FPOS security systems, videos, VCRs, all highly sensitive devices to power quality. Problem. Let's have a look at it. They all demand high quality power supply. Even in the bush, where you would think people from the country should be able to get by with, a little bit worse power, after all. Giant size, the features of this system are giant size generators, hundreds of kilometres away, supplying highly sensitive micro loads via long wires, and those wires have reached their use by date. This is an infrastructure nightmare in the making. Cascading system-wide failures are common, unstable, inflexible and brittle, with little room to move. When one major generator goes down, the system cascades and you have major failures. There's a collision of the public interest, environmental and occupational health and safety, and there's a lot of unsatisfied customers out there, and they vote. Mr. President and members, we are charged with making the decision about how to remedy that situation. But the solution on offer from our utilities is more of the same. Another coal-fired power station, please. More transmission lines, more energy-guzzling industries. At the same time, we are experiencing climate change events that bring the state to a standstill, record hot days, record rainfall events, even tornadoes. I wonder what that's related to. Could it possibly be climate? All at the same time. Not to mention failed water pipes that bring the entire city to a halt. Infrastructure problems, all part of the same problem. When will we learn, members, that when you're in a hole, you stop digging? When will we learn that when the temperature gauge in your car gets up into the red, you stop the car and you work it out? I tried that coming back from Manjimup one time. It's in the red. I just put my foot down, thought that would help. It didn't. There's another way that we can resolve this infrastructure crisis. And we need to go back to the future. If we look at our infrastructure the way it was developed from small-scale generated, regionally located, locally located with local networks, we can start reconstructing the infrastructure from the outside in, using modern, efficient power generation technology. We can build that power infrastructure back to what it was. But we have to locate the generation and the control right at the local level, right at where it all started. Mr. President, this is what I was up to in my former life, just before I came to this house. Using 4 modern turbines, we aimed to inject power right into the local grid to produce all of the electricity needs, or meet all of the electricity needs for the township of Denmark and the district. By locating the generation at the extremity of the grid, we will be able to reinforce it. And not only that, that wind farm was to be community owned and community driven. And the economic benefits for generating that power was going to go straight back into that local community. This was in the public interest. One of the great energy experts of our time, Amory Lovins, in a recent book called Small is Profitable, the hidden economic benefits of making electrical resources the right size, electrical generation at the right size and the right scale, says that there are 3 critical ingredients to electrical power planning. The first is an understanding of the technology. And I think we need to become energy literate in this time. An understanding of markets and the role of markets and equity and fairness in those markets. And it requires good governance and good policies, all acting in the public interest. There's a technological revolution, Mr. Speaker. So I'll grab this phone here. In power generation, which is no different to this device here, what mobile phones have done for telecommunications, there's technology that's going to do the same for power generation. No wires. There's technology like laptop computers, which have done for information technology. Laptop computers have done for information technology. I've lost that one. Bear in mind, this little device here, it's a memory stick, could contain the entire library of this whole outfit. There's equivalent electrical generation, smart technology that will be able to replace some of the steam age technology that we're currently using. That's the upshot. I want to tell you about a small device called a micro gas turbine. Now this one's good. Imagine, when you generate electricity, most of what you produce is actually heat, waste heat in fact, and a small amount of electricity. The Honda and the Osaka Gas Company of Japan have invented a micro gas turbine, which is the size of the heater that you use. You plug your gas heater into your house. Picture it. You come home, it's one of those days, right in the dead of winter, when everybody comes home and they switch the TV on, they switch the lights on, they switch on their heaters and their reverse cycle air conditioning, and the system goes into a peak, into an infrastructure crisis, and begins to become unstable. Not us. We go home, we plug in our gas turbine, which has an electrical cord which is connected into the electrical harness of your house, which used to drive the fan, but which now is driving a micro turbine pushing back 1 kilowatt back into the grid. Right at the time when the grid is at its most vulnerable, there are 50,000 of these generating electricity straight into the grid, producing 50 megawatts of power. There is no market for that kind of technology. The only thing on the agenda is large-scale coal-fired and gas turbines. We need to transform the market structures of this economy so that we can bring online technology which is intelligent and powerful. The technology which is equivalent to mobile phones and memory sticks. 50,000 of these turbines online brings in 50 megawatts of power. If even 10% of them are down, only 5 megawatts of power are not online. If one of our gas turbines or large coal-fired power turbines go down, the system goes into a state of shock. By decentralising power generation, by decentralising the control systems, because on your gas turbine there's an intelligent switch which can be switched on by the substation, the memory stick. Of course you can turn it off if you want, but it can bring it on demand. And that kind of infrastructure design is highly intelligent and of the technological world that we live in, not of the steam age. This is the way forward, small and profitable and in the public interest. It's inherently more democratic and community direct, and the community directly participates in their own power generation, and we resolve the infrastructure crises that we are having right now, just like rainwater tanks contribute somewhat to our water supply. In this House, members, I will be working to promote energy and resource efficiency like this, to remove the barriers to these technologies, which are clean, safe and job-rich industries, to promote government leadership, mandated government power procurement. You listening, Kim Chance and others? Mandated power procurement by government departments of some of their electricity or all of their electricity from clean, safe, renewable technologies, to ensure that the markets are fair and equitable and that these efficiency technologies get a fair go. I will be working to achieve feed-in laws for renewable energy so that the barriers that we're experiencing now in Denmark and other places are taken away, and that technology can find its place where it belongs now, not in the past, not with steam age technology. Mr. President, members and friends, I look forward to working together with you to unleash the full potential of sustainable technologies so that we can build a secure, safe and sustainable future for the state. I'd like to thank you, but I've also got to thank some other people. My mum, Dulcie Elizabeth Obery. Meet my dad, Gerald Vincent Llewellyn, in South Africa in the 50s. Actually earlier than that, Dulce. In love across racial boundaries, in the midst of the apartheid regime, and they flee to Australia 20 years later after fear in their lives for a new life. I've had that new life, I've had the education, and I'm profoundly indebted to the steady, tolerant and generous nature of my mum and dad. And I'm indebted to this country for providing me with those opportunities, and it's my turn to reply and to return that generosity. Pamela Rumble, my partner, my friend, and she's responsible for me being here. So if you have any complaints, it's Pamela Rumble. She lives in Denmark. Call her. But she's the brains trust, and she's steady. And so I'm going to have a lot of support. My son Teppo and my daughter Amanda, who've put up with having a greenie for a dad. I need to very briefly, and I'm conscious. How's the time? I'm conscious of time. Is this okay?
Yep, keep going. You've got another 35 minutes you want.
I need to thank the previous members of the Greens, the people who were in this house, and I'm going to do it in the order in which I met them when I first came to Australia. The Honourable Dee Margetts, I met at John Curtin around 1972. We went to school together. She's an extraordinary member and has taken extraordinary leadership in the whole of Australia as a senator and led the anti-nuclear movement for quite a period of time. and made a great contribution to the agricultural region of the state. The Honourable Giz Watson, my partner in crime, and we continue to do this. From Murdoch University, 1975, we've had a few miles together, so look out, we're organised. The Honourable Christine Sharp, since making her first dashing entry into the campus of Murdoch University in 1975 as the first PhD student, looking at what? The politics of forestry industry. She has achieved an extraordinary amount in the last 35 years or however long that is, and I've been very, very grateful to have been associated with Christine Sharp. I'll come back to her as a matter of fact. Jim Scott and Robin Chappell, early Greens members, forerunners, extremely hard-working people, and I'm very proud to have been following them in this house. But the last word is really for Christine Sharp, the person I'm going to take over representing the South West region from, and her partner Andrew Tammo, and her family, Tosh and Lara, who've had to put up with their mum being a greenie. I wish them all the very best in their future life. Chrissy, I take on the challenge of representing the South West and all of its magnificent forests and rivers and flowers, knowing that you have laid a sound foundation. Thanks very much.